The story of Sir Cliff Richard and Olivia Newton-John is not merely a chapter in the history of world music, but also a sorrowful love ballad about sacrifice and feelings that were never spoken aloud. At the age of 83, as he stood before the mirror reflecting on his life, the Peter Pan of pop could no longer hold back his tears when speaking about the woman he called the love of my life. For more than 60 years at the height of fame, Sir Cliff Richard embodied the image of a refined gentleman with a radiant smile, a man who seemed to have everything, a legendary career and the admiration of millions of fans. Yet at a recent special event, the world saw a very different Cliff Richard. At 83, his face, marked by the passage of time, blurred with tears as he confessed to a pain he had carefully hidden beneath the glow of fame for so many years. Fans had long wondered, why would Britain's national treasure, such a charming and talented man, choose to remain single his entire life? At times there were rumors about his sexuality, his standards, or his religious faith. But the truth, as he shared with deep emotion, was far simpler and far more painful. His heart had missed its chance and remained forever trapped in a place he could never reach. His late confession of a profound love for a woman with whom he never had the chance to build a life together shocked the public. It was not a fleeting celebrity romance, but a silent bond that endured for nearly half a century. When Cliff Richard said, "She was the love of my life," people understood that his lifelong solitude was not due to a lack of choice, but because he had devoted his unwavering loyalty to one single figure. Cliff Richard's silence was not born of cowardice, but of a gentleman's respect for the woman he loved. He first met Olivia in the 1970s through mutual friends, and from that moment on, his world was changed forever. In the vibrant atmosphere of the 1970s, music brought two kindred souls together. When Cliff Richard met Olivia Newton-John, he did not simply see a promising singer with a voice as clear as crystal. He was overwhelmed by the aura that radiated from her very being. Cliff admitted that he was deeply drawn not only to Olivia's radiant, pure beauty, but also to her rare kindness and compassionate spirit, always thinking of others before herself. He loved her deeply and instinctively from those very first days. Yet the tragedy of this love lay in the timing. Just as Cliff realized his heart completely belonged to Olivia, he also learned that she was already engaged. For a man who always placed morality and faith above all else, pursuing someone who belonged to another was unthinkable. Faced with the choice between selfishly chasing love or stepping aside to protect the peace of the woman he loved, Cliff chose the most painful path: sacrifice. He decided to bury his feelings deep within his compassion and instead became her closest friend, a silent guardian, who would always watch over and support her through every turning point in her career. Throughout the years that followed, the public often saw them together as the perfect colleagues. Olivia always trusted Cliff completely, yet she never knew that behind every smile, every word of encouragement, and every courteous embrace on stage lay an ocean of emotions he kept restrained. Cliff Richard chose to love Olivia with absolute respect, preserving those feelings with such purity that he never allowed even the slightest hint of hope to show. Behind the decision of this symbol of charm to remain single was not only the image of Olivia, but also the moral burdens and responsibilities Cliff Richard voluntarily carried on his shoulders from the time he was a very young man. Cliff Richard's life has been a series of quiet sacrifices that the public rarely noticed behind the glittering stage costumes. When Cliff was only 21 years old, his father died, leaving behind an immense emotional and financial void. Instead of living for the personal passions of a rising star, Cliff chose to become the steadfast pillar of his family, devoting much of his energy and income to caring for his mother and sisters. The immense family responsibility during the years that shaped his identity unconsciously led him to place his own happiness aside. At the same time, the strength of his faith acted as a compass guiding every decision he made. Becoming a Christian in the 1960s, a period when many artists embraced excess and indulgence, led Cliff Richard to adopt a completely different way of life. He remained committed to maintaining a clean public image, avoiding scandals and behaving cautiously in every relationship. To Cliff, marriage was a sacred vow, and he only wished to make it with the person to whom he truly belonged. In reality, there were several false alarms that gave the public hope of a grand wedding, most notably his relationship with tennis star Sue Barker. Cliff admitted that he once considered proposing to Sue, but deep within his heart, he knew there was still a candle quietly burning for someone else, Olivia. That silent comparison prevented him from ever fully giving his life to another woman. The reason behind his decades-long bachelorhood was not that Cliff Richard rejected love, but that he learned to live peacefully with loneliness. He chose to carry his feelings for Olivia like a sacred treasure within his heart, accepting that if it could not be her, then perhaps solitude was the only honest choice for him. In his later years, when looking back, he did not see it as a loss, but as a way of preserving the only love he truly believed in. Although his heart always carried a silent wound, Cliff Richard never allowed the selfishness of love to stain the friendship between them. He chose to remain close enough to protect her, yet distant enough to respect Olivia's private life. For decades, Cliff made a silent promise to himself to maintain an absolute and respectful distance. When Olivia married Matt Latanzi and later John Easterling, Cliff remained steadfast in the role of a loyal friend. He never interfered, never applied pressure, and never once disrupted her family happiness. He accepted the role of a distant observer, smiling when he saw her happy and quietly suffering whenever life brought hardship into her world. This sacrifice demanded extraordinary strength of character. Cliff Richard proved that true love does not necessarily mean possession. For him, simply being able to stand beside her on stage, hear her laugh, and know that she was all right was already a blessing worth dedicating an entire lifetime to. He preserved the role of her closest friend until the very final days of Olivia's life, leaving behind a love that was never tainted by selfish desires or worldly calculations. Cliff Richard's silence for more than 40 years was not because he wished to hide the truth, but because he wanted to protect the peace of the woman he loved. Yet when cruel fate called Olivia's name in 2022, the wall separating his reason from his emotions finally collapsed completely. On August 8, 2022, the entire world was left stunned by the news that Australia's angel, Olivia Newton-John, had taken her final breath after a courageous battle with cancer. For millions of fans, it was the loss of a beloved star, but for Cliff Richard, it was the moment the sunlight disappeared entirely from his world. The news struck him like a devastating blow, shattering every emotional barrier he had spent decades building in order to keep himself composed. In a deeply emotional public letter written with complete heartbreak, Cliff described Olivia as a pure light and one of the greatest blessings God had ever given him. For the first time, the world witnessed a legendary figure, known all his life for his composure, reveal the full depth of his vulnerability. In a later interview, with a trembling voice and tear-filled eyes, he made a confession that shocked the world. She was the love of my life, and she never knew it. After more than 40 years of silence, after more than 40 years of accepting the role of just a close friend standing quietly beside her happiness, Cliff Richard finally admitted that every decision to remain single throughout his life revolved around one name alone. He confessed that he had loved her since the early 1970s, loved her even when she belonged to someone else, and loved her while fully knowing that his feelings would never be returned in the way he had secretly hoped. Yet instead of expressing regret for never confessing his feelings sooner, Cliff Richard spoke with profound gratitude. He insisted that he did not regret remaining silent, because that silence had allowed him to preserve a flawless and everlasting friendship with her. Even while his heart was breaking, he still felt honored and proud, simply to have been a small part of Olivia's radiant world. His tears at the age of 83 were not the lament of a failed love story, but the final tribute to a woman who had completely redefined his understanding of happiness. Olivia Newton-John captured Cliff Richard's heart not only through her beauty, but also through her intellectual grace and noble spirit, shaped by an extraordinary family legacy. Behind the sweet and gentle image of Sandy in Greece was a remarkable bloodline connected to figures who helped change human history itself. Olivia Newton-John was born in 1948 in Cambridge, England, into a family where intelligence and distinction seemed woven into its very DNA. Her father, Brinley Newton-John, was not only a university professor, but also a renowned MI5 intelligence officer during the Second World War, a man directly involved in the Enigma code-breaking project at Bletchley Park. Yet the brightest part of her legacy came from her mother's side of the family. Olivia's mother, Irene, was the eldest daughter of Max Born, the brilliant German physicist who won the Nobel Prize and was also a close friend of Albert Einstein. Beyond that, her ancestry could even be traced back to the famed religious reformer Martin Luther. The combination of academic brilliance and a powerful reformist spirit created an Olivia who was both gentle and resilient, a woman capable of standing strong against the harshest storms life could bring. Olivia's life truly changed direction when her family moved to Melbourne, Australia, when she was 5 years old. It was there that her artistic spirit began to blossom. Unlike many young stars of her era, Olivia brought a natural elegance and the poise of a true lady into her music. Her multicultural and intellectual upbringing helped her maintain a rare humility, even while standing at the very summit of global popular culture. The legacy Olivia left behind was not merely millions of records sold or prestigious Grammy Awards. She became a symbol of a woman who used her fame to shine light upon the vulnerable and the suffering. After being diagnosed with breast cancer in 1992, she transformed her life into a tireless mission for public health awareness. The Olivia Newton-John Cancer and Wellness Centre in Melbourne stands today as the clearest testament to the compassionate heart that Cliff Richard quietly adored for an entire lifetime. Despite possessing the beauty of an angel and a career filled with extraordinary success, Olivia Newton-John's private life resembled a novel filled with sorrowful chapters, where every romance left scars that never fully faded.